So I'm here to do discussion board 3. Here is my ID. So the question was, what conclusions can you make about how enslaved blacks fit into the worldview of the average citizen in France, and how can you utilize this document in the first short essay? So looking into the primary source, the Declaration of the Rights of the Man and Citizen, adopted on August 26 of 1789, stated men are born and remain free and equal in rights. So things must be the same for all. All citizens are equal in the eyes of the law, and no one should be disturbed on their opinions, including religious views. So the primary source was clearly stating that everyone's equal, no one's better than the other, and number 12 specifically stated, the forces are established for the good of all and not for personal advantage of those who should be entrusted. So that right there is telling you everyone needs to be the same. Everyone needs to be treated the same. No one's better than the other. But then when you look into the book, the Friends of the Blacks advocated the abolition of slavery, which was achieved in France in September of 1791. So that there tells you that there was still slavery, even though the primary source stated that everyone was to be equal. But the French planters in the West Indies were opposing to the abolition of the slavery. So, guided by the equality ideas, on February 4th of 1794, the government abolished slavery in the colonies. Some slaves even began revolting for their freedom because the French planters did not want to give all the slaves their freedom because they had too much to gain off of having the slaves with their plantations and getting their crops done. They knew they could never achieve all that they were achieving without the manpower of the slaves. So when the slaves began to revolt on the planters, it became a big massacre. And then Napoleon stated that the slaves demonstrated the savage nature of the blacks by performing the massacre on the white planters. So even though everyone was supposed to be equal, as the primary source stated, looking into the book, there was some more in-depth stuff there and provided some more info on that. So in the primary source, everyone was equal, but then in the book, they tried to make everything equal between everyone, but they still knew, some groups of people knew they needed the slaves for their benefit, basically, so they weren't quite as equal as they were supposed to be. But in the end, Haiti was the first state in Latin America to win its freedom. And then how can this be utilized in the first short essay? The French in the global scramble of power, the primary source can be used because it's like the French were attempting to gain power by making the blacks more equal to them. So by having things equal, they got more people on their side, so it eventually kind of like brought them up to be of a higher power because they had more manpower behind them, more people supported them. But then after that massacre, it kind of like put some tension on things. But then in the end, by abolishing the slavery and all that good stuff, it did have more people on their side. So that would be a great source to use towards France in the short essay.